Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, and in today's video, we are going to take a deep dive on all of the characters that are available for the upcoming Gambit raid, and I'm going to give my thoughts on them and also show people which characters that I plan to use for each of the lanes on my roster. Now, I know that some people may have already released their video on this already, but I want to give it from my perspective. If you're looking for event math for the upcoming milestone, that will be released tomorrow on YouTube, so ring that notification bell and subscribe if you haven't already to keep on top of that. Now, as always, everything in this game is subject to change, like, flip-flopping Omega Red around on the blog post, but hey, that's Scopely. So if you're ready to go, then let's go boil this down. Okay. So I just want to kind of pivot here really quickly. The Ace of Raids featuring Gambit, the blog post here. If you haven't checked this out, please do, because there's a lot of information related to the upcoming raids. I'm not going to be going through most of this. I'm not touching. We're specifically focusing on the characters that are going to be used for this event, which ones you should be using, which ones you should definitely avoid, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of information here. All the characters are listed here, including the raid maps as well. We'll touch on this a little bit after we talk about the characters, because this raid map actually is going to be really important for alliance management, for your alliance leaders, captains, or if you watching are any of these people, then you're going to know that this is going to be quite challenging in order to do this before Wednesday when it's going to go live. So yeah, that's something that you're going to need to keep on top of. But first, let's go to the spreadsheets, because there's always a spreadsheet, right? And so that's kind of how I've organized this myself anyways. So we're going to start off with diamonds and clubs, because this is in the top here. And so some of the... actually, you know what? We're going to go all the way to the trash characters. So I've separated this into three categories. The top tier categories, the usable characters, and the trash or meh. And so they're not always trash characters that are in there, but they're characters that you're probably going to want to avoid using unless you're literally down to scraps. So let's talk about the three, and unfortunately my head's in the way here. But you can see Deadpool, Domino, and Strife. Deadpool, Domino, and Strife for the Diamond category. Frankly, I don't know why these were included. Deadpool and Domino, like, what the hell? X-Force, war characters. I didn't even put notes in here because it's just frankly not worth my time. Strife, as a tank, he's actually he's more or less the only tank outside of Colossus that's available, but you don't even have the rest of his team. You don't have any of his Marauders allies in here at all. So standalone, I don't think it's going to be very good. But if you have to really use it, it's there, but not my first choice. Now, what's interesting here, going from the bottom up, you can see that there's a whole slew of X-Men characters. You have Magic, you have Colossus, you have Gambit, Dazzler, and Sunfire. So technically that's a 5-man team of X-Men, and they're really, really pushing you not only to spend money on the unlimited X-Men characters, but they're pushing you to use X-Men here, even though, once again, none of them are raid characters. The unlimited X-Men are Cosmic Crucible characters, and Magic and Colossus are kind of mixed, I guess, but not necessarily a raid team. So Magic does give drain to X-Men allies, so but most of these characters aren't available free to play. Gambit's not out, Sunfire's not out, so there's these characters, and Dazzler's not actually available free to play either, because I think I have 40 shards or something, right? So you don't even have them unlocked, so they're asking you to use characters that you realistically can't even do anything about. And I think that's really fucked up, frankly. But let's talk about the characters that you can do something about. And really, it doesn't leave you with that many, unfortunately. But this is, mainly going to be the lane for veteran players. And that's Gamora and Nebula. And I've kind of tried to color code them a little bit where there's pairings. So Gamora and Nebula, both kind of DPS-ish type of characters. Gamora's very high damage, so you're probably going to want to use her. And then Nebula is going to help her get to her empowered stance, a lot quicker. Good synergy with Gamora, adding evades and stuff. You have Symbiote, Spider-Man, and Carnage. So it feels like we're digging the symbiotes out from the grave, but you really want to use these two together. So, good raid text with Symbiote Spider-Man, and Carnage is going to give turn bar and that stuff. So there's some good stuff going on here, but none of them heal. Okay, and Dr. Voodoo is some good control. You can use him with Morbius. I'm actually planning on using him standalone, I think, here, unless something goes wonky and I need to bring in Morbius for whatever reason. But I'm going to probably stick with Dr. Voodoo standalone first with these other 4 here. And Dr. Voodoo does give barrier to, I believe, adjacent allies. So you might want to position them in a way that there's 2 other people next to him so that they can benefit from that. But otherwise, none of them actually heal more broadly. Symbiote, Spider-Man, and Carnage, they can heal each other because they're symbiotes. I don't think Gamora and Nebula actually heal. So you might need to run healer ISOs on Gamora? I don't. Dr. Voodoo, I guess. Like there's just no healing to go around. And so that's why I'm really concerned. Because if you go back to the raid map, there's a lot of diamond nodes. There's like 14. So even if you had 2 people, which you kind of do, need 2 people running on the outside for diamonds and hearts here, that's 14 nodes of pure diamond. And with very limited healing, I think this is going to be really, really effing rough. Even with decent characters, there's just the longevity I don't think is there to get them through that many nodes. But, I mean, hey, we won't know until we actually go into it. Let's talk about clubs, though. So I would recommend those 5, personally. Let's talk about clubs. So there's 2 what I would call the top tier characters. These are the characters that hopefully you can use. And Silver Surfer is on here, but I know that a lot of sort of newer players, maybe some mid-game players, aren't using Silver Surfer. He is still the kind of top on this list. He's very fast, has some really good debuffs. Thor is also on this list. He's on the top tier because he's getting reworked as part of the Hero as Guardians. Huge stats. If you haven't checked out my video on Thor just like this past week or however long ago it was, go check that out because Thor is going to be an absolute monster come the patch on Tuesday or Wednesday. Now, paired up with Thor, you could use Loki. You could do this. You could use T'Challa and Yondu. And once again, the Unlimited X-Men are here. But, same thing what I said, is they're just not available free to play. Other than Phantom X, who you don't want to use standalone. Gambit and Sunfire, they have Gambit in every single lane. T'Challa and Yondu, you're going to want to use together if you can. T'Challa can be used standalone. I want to pay special attention to Spider-Punk here because he's not actually very good. I originally had him in top tier, then I realized when I checked his kit, it's actually pretty garbage by himself. And I want to actually move there really quick and talk about this because Spider-Punk does not get the bonus attack on his basic without another Web Warrior present, and he does not have any for this. His special is hot garbage because he doesn't get the additional damage without other Web Warriors on the team, and so it's going to be very, very weak. 160% is super, super garbage. His ult, because he doesn't have Ghost Spider, does not apply trauma. It does 250% damage and applies heal block, but that's not a lot of damage. 250 is not a lot of damage. And his passive, okay, so if he happens to dodge, he'll give offense up to himself. But he's not getting the rest of the stats that he gets from the wider Web Warrior. So I actually don't think that Spider-Punk is going to be a very good character because he's not going to get all this stuff. So if you need to use him, you can use him, but I don't think it's going to perform very well. Now look at all the trash characters, right? War Machine, Taskmaster, Magneto, Yellowjacket, and Shatterstar. Shatterstar isn't innately terrible, but because you don't have Longshot, it kind of makes him terrible. So he's not going to do a whole lot by himself. Yellowjack, these are characters that you're probably not going to have up. Taskmaster, maybe, for some veteran players, but otherwise there's a lot of garbage characters in here, unfortunately. Now, some notes on both the Diamond and the Clubs lanes. The Diamonds is more of a veteran lane with Infinity Watch and Symbiotes and kind of an older meta. So if you aren't able to do that, then this is going to be a real struggle for you. Lots of character pairings in like twosomes, and then they're really pushing X-Men here with the 5 characters from here above. For Clubs, this is the worst lane of the raid in my opinion. There's not a lot of good backups. Really unsure of Spider-Punk's standalone value without any other Web Warrior. I think it's going to suck. A lot of trash guild characters in here as well. So those are the 2 lanes for that so far. Let's move on to Hearts and Spades. And before we continue on, I do want to mention in the raid lane map that when you are doing clubs and things like that, clubs and spades actually, they kind of jump back and forth. So if you zoom in a little bit here, you can see clubs and spades are kind of interchanged. So you start spades here, 2 nodes of spades, 2 nodes of clubs, 2 nodes of clubs over here, and then 2 nodes of spades, and then so on and so on. So they're actually interchanged, and this is spades, clubs, clubs, and then so it goes back and forth actually. So it's okay there. You might not need to do as many club nodes, but again, longevity is an issue because almost none of them are healer characters in this entire raid, except for in Hearts. So let's take a look at Hearts. Top tier characters include Emma Frost, Agatha Harkness, Sharon Carter, Ghost Spider, and Dagger. Dagger being a slightly more reliable healer, and Agatha also has some healing as well. So these are two characters that I would definitely consider running. Ghost Spider obviously has some really good debuffs and damage. Sharon Carter, again, a lot more control there as well, and Emma Frost, additional control. I would maybe, if you have a high Emma Frost, run a healer ISO on her. That might help, spread out some additional healing on the team as well. Now, there are some other usable characters in here. You have Kitty Pryde, who is a standalone, not standalone X-Men, sorry, because Gambit's here again, and Dazzler's down here below. So you could still use Kitty Pryde, but only consider that if you're running X-Men characters. Otherwise, if you need a backup, I personally wouldn't use her that much standalone. You also have Spider-Woman and Nico Minoru. I haven't really invested in A-Force, but again, they're not raid characters. Misty Knight and Calling Wing, also not raid characters, but there might be some value for some people who really, backups. They're backups. Anyone that's not in the top 5 here, they're backups, if someone dies or something. And then we have Ghost, who's like a weird stand-in here. She's quite squishy at this point in the game, so I don't know what kind of value you're going to get out of this. And obviously Mantis is in here. Just no. No, no, don't Gear 16 Mantis, don't do anything of the sort, please. Some notes for this, probably the most amount of healing potential lane compared to every other lane on this list. There's lots of meta characters available, and especially good meta characters that more recently you probably have or should have. If you don't, this raid, it's a really tough raid, and when we get to the math tomorrow, I'm going to talk about why this is actually kind of a bit of a shitty event, because as far as what you're going to have to do to get there, I'm not sure if even if you have all the top tier characters, how far you're going to be able to get, because it could be really hard paired with the Scourges. So keep that in mind. It's going to be tough. Now let's talk about Spades. Let's call Spades a spade, right? So we have Morgan Le Fay, Deathpool, Jubilee, Scarlet Spider, and OG Spider-Man. Now, these are all the top-tier characters in my opinion. Need I say more about Morgan? Deathpool, actually, a lot of these characters have raid traits. Deathpool, Jubilee, Scarlet Spider, and OG Spider-Man all have raid-related traits, which is great. There's some synergy with each other. Also, Deathpool throws out energy for Mystic characters, which is good for Morgan Le Fay. So should be able to power battery her, which is good. And Jubilee applies her blinds and offense down on her alts and her basic, because it's a raid text thing. And so she'll be able to do that even standalone. So there's some really good value characters here. You could also use Thanos as a cosmic raid battery for Deathpool, if you so wish, if you have him built up. Otherwise, again, similar situation with the Unlimited X-Men, unfortunately, with Gambit, Phantom X, and Sunfire, who Phantom X is available, Gambit and Sunfire are not, and a lot of trashy characters. Daredevil, Mr. Fantastic, Human Torch, and Psylocke. Like, I can't even believe some of these characters are even on this list. Like, back up here with, like, War Machine, like, and Yellow Jacket. Like, really? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, just no. Just flat out no. Now, some special notes here. It's a good top tier list, just like the Hearts. So there's some really solid characters, especially if you have Morgan Le Fay. But otherwise, they're really, really pushing this sort of whale. This is a whale event, I have to say, and we'll find it. You'll see more tomorrow when we do the event stuff, the milestone stuff. But they're really pushing you to use Unlimited X-Men. And they're not even a raid team, and again, they're not free-to-play accessible. So I don't know what's going on with Scopely and their decision on these characters. It's a bit mind-blowing, frankly. Thanos and Cull may be usable for older veterans who have Black Order as well, maybe as a backup or something if you need to add characters in here. And I think it's really important to really understand the raid map, because you're going to have to use a lot of these characters back to back to back, especially Hearts and Diamonds. Like I said on the beginning here, there's like 14 nodes on the outside for both Hearts and Diamonds. There is crossover here towards the end of the interior lanes that kind of runs over some Diamonds and Hearts as well, so you might be able to get used to those characters. And that's kind of part of the thing, is if you're running any of these Spades and Clubs lanes, you are eventually going to cross over to all 4 of them, but you get a choice, because up here towards the end, you can see you get crossovers with Diamonds Spades, Diamonds Clubs, and Hearts Clubs, these kind of things. So you can use 2 different lanes, 2 different sections worth of characters on one node. So that's nice too. But unfortunately, in the entirety of the Diamonds and the Hearts do not have this. So whether or not you're actually going to get the longevity, let's say 2 people per lane, that's 7 nodes, hypothetically, or up to 7 nodes per person. On Hearts, maybe, because you have Dagger and Agatha, and you might be able to spread out the healing enough that you'll actually be able to clear it. On Diamonds, I'm not really convinced that despite how good some of these characters are, I'm not super convinced that you're actually going to get through the entire lane with this. Maybe at lower difficulties, but at higher. This is just Scopely's way of trying to get you to spend money on these new heal packs that's going to be available for this event. It is going to be an honest shit show, and you're going to see that tomorrow when I release my video on the math and the strategies that we need to employ in order to actually get through this event, because it's an absolute mess. But I hope that some of this helped you guys consider what you're going to do for this. Let me know in the comments down below what your plans are. If you're an alliance leader or an alliance captain, have you guys already started figuring out what's going on and what your plan is to approaching this event? Because I'd love to know some of that as well. So otherwise, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and until next time, stay safe and healthy. I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.